All right, everybody. Eric Mashinsky, Gold Investment Letter, Elite Investments, here today. I think with a fun story. Serafino, Iacono, how are you?
All right, bud. How you doing?
Very
Thank you
good.
for
And
having me.
yeah, likewise. It was nice to meet you fairly recently on a deal that I was really drawn to in Denarius that you were running at the moment. We bumped into each other. We had a big position in Goldx, which you purchased through Gran Colombia being a very significant producer. And I still want to know, we'll get into it, but why the hell is it so cheap? I mean, it shouldn't be. These valuations on this bad boy is like, I'm stumped, but we'll get to that. And I just, wanted to talk a little bit about your background because I find it fascinating. And I actually did a little bit of a write-up the other day where I don't know if you saw it, but I talked about the size of your balls in Colombia. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for going to Medellin, 5-10 years ago and thinking I'm going to get killed by Pablo. And you guys were there in the 80s, so or something like that, right? It was the 90s.
No, you know what they say, no rain, no rainbow. So you got to find the rain.
That's true. I'm just going to we'll start there. I'm going to share my screen on the article that I found. I think this is back, yeah, in 2013. Let's see, there we go. All right. And this was a mining.com write-up. And I really would love to, because here's the bottom line for me, especially in my career at this point. A lot of investors rationalize the management teams and the boards in the mining sector. They suck. They're weak. They don't know what they're doing. And if they know what they're doing, then they're lazy and they take salaries from this company and that company, and the board doesn't do anything to add any value. And that's just like a normal thing. And you have the lifestyle sort of model. And I think it's got to stop. And I'm going to be doing a little bit more about that. And I have had to do that. And I'm not a contentious investor. I'm a passive investor. I would love it if, whoever I invested in just like did their job and executed and, pushed things forward. And that seems to be exactly what you do. But, a lot of this stuff is, we've got a ton of asset heavy value discounts in this market. There's companies with great assets in the gold in Nevada or whatever else, and it's trading for pennies. And I've been scooping those up just like I did at the end of the bear market in 15, 16, and 17, and 18, and still going forward. But I kept running into the same problem. And that is that, you can even have I don't invest in people that are outwardly like bad people. I know all the ins and outs on all the tricks and promoters and this and that. Somebody started a company and they had to go public to raise capital, or they started a public company to dump shares and they had to build a story around it. But a lot of the good people I like, they're just not capable. You either have the geologist on the one end or you have the promoter on the other. There's very few that are sort of a hybrid, or the geologists are, I think, more valuable in the sense that if they could just transmute the unfamiliarity with financial markets and capital markets and things, it's a surprise. So that's why, for me at this point, I bet on people that win, that tend to, it's like the adage, like there's a reason why the same people are at the table at the World Series of Poker every single year. Like it's not that much gambling if you've been through this stuff, you've done the work, you've done the homework, and have the experience. So that's kind of the way that I want to put it, because people look at this like this stock, what's going on with that, with this, look, you have to have somebody steering the ship that knows what they're doing. So this article I found fascinating. It's about 8 years old, 8.5, and it mentions you and Frank Giustra, and it was going back to, what was your first trip to Colombia? It was 1994. Tell me a little bit about what it was like then and what made you guys go.
Well, I'll go over that, but I love what you just said. Unfortunately, in our industry, and I want to make a statement on it, there is a lot of people that create these companies in moments like ours that we have, where copper is high, where gold is high and everything. And not most of them, there is a good portion of them that they do lifestyle. We are not that type of people. Myself, and this article is I've forgotten about this article, was Frank and I actually receiving President Clinton at the time in Cartagena. And it was at the time that I was running Pacific Rubiale Energy, which was an incredible success story until oil prices went down to $27. We control everything in life but oil prices. But to finish the point, we always put our money where our mouth is. We're guys that we invest, we create, we manage, and we nurture. Sometimes we sell, many times we make a lot of money. Sometimes because the industry goes south, we lose some money, but at the end of the day, the average, as you say in the poker, we do things to make our investors win and that we make ourselves win because we're aligned with our investors. Our investors make money, we make money. We don't make money, they don't make money. So how do we start with Frank? Well, before '94, Frank was my banker with Yorkton Securities. He financed for us projects like the El Machito mine in Honduras, in Venezuela, Venezuelan gold fields, and the Loma de Nickel mine, and a bunch of other projects. So we've known each other many, many years, and we've been friends more than just doing business. We've been friends for many, many years. In 1994, we were there because we saw the great opportunity in Colombia with natural resources. It was still a very iffy places in 1994. You had the problems with the cartels still roaming around. You had the guerrilla, the insecurities and everything. But the opportunities to make money in the country were gigantic. And we did. We made, for our investors, great money with a company that at the time was called Gran Colombia Gold, believe it or not. Same name. That's why I took the same name years after. And with Petro Norte, which was at the time also an oil company that we had bought from the Grupo Santo Domingo, oil prices were going up. Gold was going from 380 to the $600 an ounce, and there were great opportunities in the country. And you got to be at the right places at the right time. And there is no, I made an expression, no rain, no rainbow, and that is true. When you start dealing with markets, you gotta be there, as you said, buying shares and buying companies when nobody wants to have them is when you want to be there. Today's the perfect example is people that bought when nobody wanted oil companies 4 years ago. Today, oil companies look at where oil is at, from $27 to $80 and plus. So that's what we do, and that's how we create values. And this thing over here with Frank, we went to look at it. We left Colombia in '98, and then we came back again in 2004 when we felt that the situation politically was better. President Uribe was in the country. He was the new president, and it was a lot safer to be in Colombia and a lot of opportunities to buy assets very cheap.
Right. And I think, so that timeline is impressive just because, I mean, it was very early, 94. Was Pablo still alive then? Or that was at the guerrillas?
He was killed. He was killed, but there were worse people, which was the Cartel del Valle, from the Valle, from the southern part of Colombia. Colombia was getting better. In '94, it was still, you had the guerrillas, you had the ALN, you still had the problem with the drugs with some of the cartel. Colombia started getting better with the days of President Uribe. When President Uribe came in 2004, because of the Americans putting in a hell of a lot of money into the country with what they called the democratic security. The United States put close to $1 billion into Colombia, putting a professional army, getting rid of corruption in the police and the military, putting people in jail and things like that, and becoming tougher. That Colombia became a fantastic place to do business, and we had a boom from 2006 to.
I think he just signed off, and
Oh,
he's
there we go.
probably going to sign back on.
There we go.
Yeah, I lost you for a second, but
You're all good. You could pick up where you left off on the president transition, the money that went into Colombia. You guys thought it looked safer, and even though you had some really interesting stories about even just in that article, yeah, now you're muted again. Not muted, but we can't hear you.
how about now? I'm back.
Yeah, it's still faint though, right, Lucas? More than before. I'll just edit this
Hold
part
on a
out.
second. Let me take off
There we
my
go.
earphones
There we go.
and I'll do it live over here. Here we go.
Okay, and I'll just put. Can you say something now again?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you?
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'll just, we'll edit this part out. No problem. So you were in the thought of the, I'll just pick it up here. So the guerrillas and the FARC and all that stuff that was going on, those groups were also in the remote parts outside of the city, pretty much, where basically though that you've got to look for the mines there too, right? I mean, how is that environment?
But you see, we chose always places where truly were never a problem. For example, on the oil side, on the oil fields in the Llanos of Colombia, we looked at an area that they had huge potential. In the past, they had problems, but because of Ecopetrol being in the area, we had the military. Because of the aid of the Americans, the military could deploy more people into different areas, which made it the area secure. In the old days, the guerrillas didn't want to be where there were military. They wanted to be in the jungle, or they wanted to be in villages where there was very little police forces around. So we chose area that strategically we knew that we were well protected, but that they had great assets. We did that with oil. We did that with mining. That's why we bought in Segovia and Remedio. Probably, what is now known as the fourth highest grade mine in the world. And it's been like that for the last 5 years in a row. We get every single year on the top 5 mines in the world for grade.
That's amazing. And also, so when did you start that? And are you still involved besides as a shareholder?
Oh, no, look, Pacific, just to talk a little bit about Pacific and what we did in Colombia. We started Pacific, Frank, myself, and a bunch of investors in Canada with $35 million investment. Pacific went as high as being a company that did $7 billion in EBITDA, and a company that went with $11 billion in market cap. Okay. In the company like Gran Colombia, we took Gran Colombia and Medoro resources, the Marmato mine and the Segovia mine. We created Gran Colombia Gold. Gran Colombia now is the largest producer of gold in Colombia. Produces 220,000 ounces of gold a year. Gran Colombia owns now 46% of the Marmato mine, which is being built by Aris Gold, which we are the largest shareholder of that company. Neil Woodyear, a great manager, runs that company. And that company is going to produce by 2024, 200,000 ounces of gold a year. So that's our second mine that we built. You mentioned Goldx. Goldx was an acquisition that we did. That's going to be our third mine that we're going to have in place by 2024 also. We just raised $300 million to build a mine. It's a mine that's going to produce steady for the next 20 years, 200,000 ounces of gold a year. So plus copper. We build, and the companies like, what do? We take opportunities, understanding what the country needs, what we can do in the country. And I know it sounds cliche. Having the know-how and the know-who in a country is very important, and
Well,
that's
it's
what
not
we
like,
do.
yeah, I mean, that's one of the points I've been making to some of my guys is that, look, uh, you go back that far and the amount of work you had to do to just get certain things up and running, like a back of the napkin new model in a new third world country. Since then, that's been a long time, and you've built other businesses, obviously, and you've been very involved. So, like, knowing the ins and outs, even of what you've got to do with everything, sort of the permitting and who you can hire and where it can be and all those things, it's invaluable. But you've obviously got a model. We talked about this a little bit before. You like, obviously, this 200,000 ish ounces of gold a year production. I mean, you also with Goldx, touching on that, I think everybody's glad to hear that is still converted into Gran Colombia. There's a lot of us that still own stock, and I've been nibbling a little more, but we'll do something separate to walk through. I think the details of that company, because it's worth it. Next, we're going to get on to what will be the focus today with what you're doing with running Denarius. But here's what I would like to know is, are you surprised by sort of the lack of money, capital, and activity that has actually gone into Colombia for natural resources and mining up until now? Because there's a lot of juicy stuff there, but even if you look at it, you could split it into two. The Canadian companies go in there, and then there's also the rest of the world.
Well, you know what's funny? The country went to a gigantic boom with the oil industry and with the mining industry. There's still a bunch of Canadian companies that are alive. Frontera Energy is Pacific Rubiales. What used to be Pacific, it's now called Frontera. It's got $1 billion market cap still. And companies like Canacol are still there, and 700 million to $1 billion market cap. Also, you have other on the oil company on the Canadian side. There is many of them. On the gold side, you have Gran Colombia. You have projects like Aris Gold that is investing $300 million to build a mine. You have a lot of the foreigners that have taken advantage where the Canadians have left, because I think that some of the Canadians ran out of money out of the junior markets. There were some mishaps in some areas like Red Eagle, that they built a mine and didn't turn out to be so well. But at the end of the day, you got Santurban that is owned by Mubadala, and they have spent $600 million. You have the big companies. Anglo Gold is there. Bima, the guys, B2 Gold are there. They're building a huge mine. So there is a lot of money being invested in the country. And for the market to understand, Colombia produces a lot of gold. In Latin America, Colombia is the third largest producer of nickel in South America. Okay, we are starting to come in now into becoming huge producers of copper once the permits and the companies are built. The Anglo Gold builds the mine, and B2 Gold will build their mine. And when Mubadala builds their mine, there's going to be huge production of gold. Zijin is bought Continental Gold, and they're starting to produce. I think this year they might end up be producing close to 200,000 ounces of gold a year. So there is lots of activity, and by the way, we're still the largest producer in Latin America of coal, and all of the coal in Colombia produces 90 million tons of coal, which goes to Europe. This is the hypocrisy about the green movement being pushed by Norway and Germany and France and all these countries. But that coal gets sold in those countries. I own privately a coal company that produces 1 million tons of coal a year. I sell it to Spain, England, and to Germany. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because you get to the West. I just watched the conference in Glasgow yesterday in terms of the ESG movement, but there's a lot of room for, I mean, there's a lot of countries that are just behind in terms of that development. And there's a need for these different natural resources, even if people think that we are poisoning the world. I mean, the fact is, though, that when you're dealing with, these areas, you've got gold production experience, you've got oil production experience, obviously coal, but you also found these mines, right? I mean, you found that the ore bodies, or were they there?
Well, historically, Segovia was a mine that has been around for 100 years, and they're just scratching the surface. It was owned by the Frontino Gold Mines. That was a New York listed company in the 50s to the 70s. There is lots of, we developed a lot of mines. We created a lot of areas. Marmato is a totally brand new mine that's going to be developed at 6 million ounces of gold sitting over there to be mined underground. Guyana is a brand new mine. I didn't discover it, but what we're doing is now we're perfecting what was done by the past management into develop a mine. We're fine tuning it so that it becomes a much more profitable mine. So we know how to go back and redefine and redesign mine. And going to Spain to the Lomero mine, I can tell you one thing. I've seen, and I developed in my career, I've developed 7 mines in my career, starting from two gold mines in Colombia, coal mines in 2 gold mines, sorry, in Venezuela, 2 coal mines in Colombia, a nickel mine in Venezuela, and many other mines that I've been involved in the past that are still around, including what we have. What they all have in common is that you just, as Michelangelo used to say, the David was in the marble. The material that we go after, it's because you are an elephant country. It's there. And the only thing that you have to do is be diligent, work hard, and instead of concentrating yourself on building something that it's temporary, in and out, and this is where the promoters come in, and they're the guys that develop maybe the early stage mines. We are in the other cycle of the mines. We develop real mines and we put them into production.
So let's do the segue and hone in on Spain and the Denarius model. But you kind of said, Lomero mine, look, here's what I've done. And I don't think you looped that in. What do you think of the Lomero mine in Spain? Why did you start focusing there versus where you've had so much success in South America?
Well, if there is the most unbelievable place in the world, and I mean in the world, for massive sulfides, and the pyrite belt of Spain is the most amazing in the world with those kind of assets. I known it for many years. Spain went through a moment that it was very difficult to navigate yourself. We took our time to understand how to navigate in Spain, and started choosing the areas that we wanted to work. I did this with private money first to go to the learning curve with a company that I own privately with some other investors, that it's a tin and a tantalum and niobium mine in Galicia, where we spent $35 million of our money. And there I learned the learning curve of understanding how to work in Spain. And again, going back to have the know-how and the know-who in country. When we started seeing what was happening with the metals
in, that everybody's talking about batteries, and it's talking about going green and going electric. The simple question of these things is, where are you going to get all these metals sufficient enough for you to build these projects? Because this doesn't become a problem of just China or the United States. Europe is a huge consumer in a country that now they have to adapt, because either you become a slave of China with with natural resources and material like copper and zinc and cobalt and rare earths, that you're going to go after them. And I'm telling you, the day's going to come that the Chinese are going to say, I'm not selling you bars of copper or bars of zinc. I'm selling you the final product for you to put into your country, because that's what they're going to do. So the Europeans, we started seeing that there is a great opportunity for you to position yourself in a country like Europe, which is the second most important economy in the world. And maybe not the second, maybe it's the third most important economy in the world, where they're going to be needing all these materials, where they're going to be needing all of these things. And the logical places to be is in Norway, they have mines. In Serbia, they have copper. But to me, the easiest place where I speak the language, I know the culture, and I know how to move inside the country was Spain. We started looking for projects, and it took us a year to find the project. But look where we are. We are an elephant country. You are in a place where you have Lundin that has been working there for years. You have Trafigura. You have Mubadala. You have the big names outside of the Canadians, some of the Australians. And when you look at the acquisition that you have, company like Atalaya that produced copper in the country for many years, which is the old Rio Tinto mine, company like Matsa, which is our next door neighbor that just got sold to an Australian company for 2 billion euros. Okay. These are the kind of places that you want to be, because they're going to be the center of the universe for you to take out metals. What do we have in Lomero that attracts me? It's been drilled with 80,000 meters of drilling. It was drilled in the past by 2 Canadian companies and then by an Australian company, where there is confirmation in 43-101 of resources of 22 million tons of material with 3.8 grams of gold, with almost 5% zinc, with 1% copper, with 1% lead, with 2 ounces of silver. You tell me, where do you find anything of that size? When you look at size, you're looking potentially over here in resources of 2.5 million ounces of gold, of 200,000 tons of copper, okay, of 800,000 tons of zinc, of 200,000 tons of lead, and 40 million ounces of silver. It's you're not going to find that in Chile. You're going to find it in the Pyrite Belt in Spain. And that's why it's become the hottest place to do business. Now, what have we done? We started drilling already. And we're very excited about the drilling, because everything that we've done, our first 3 drill holes in this thing, and every single one of these drill holes are confirmation drilling. The first 22,000 meters that we're going to be doing in the mine in Lomero is going to be to confirm the original drill holes that have been done in the past, because I have to be sure that what was done in the past was done right before I start telling the market. Now, I can tell you, because we don't have the grades, but whatever we have reported that is historical drills, the first 3 drill holes confirm, at least visually, mineralization of massive sulfides. And these are huge areas, 10 meters to 100 meters thick of mineralization. It's unbelievable stuff. In Spain.
Right. It's a very interesting
country.
And there's a lot of people like myself. I don't have, I think I have one one investment that is modest, that is actually exposure to minerals and in Europe, that are actually based in Europe. So geographically, it's an interesting place to go. Now, tell us a little bit about your neighbors.
Well, let's put it this way. Atalaya, let's start with Atalaya, owned by Trafigura, a Chinese company, and a group of investors in North American and British investors. The company is a company that produces, I believe it's 35,000 tons of copper concentrate, and they're going to be producing about the same in zinc. I mean, this is just one of the company. You got Lundin that has been there for many, many years, very quietly producing copper and lead and zinc concentrate for many years. The Matsa mine, which just got sold and got bought by an Australian company, produces 50,000 tons of concentrate of lead, zinc, copper, and even some gold associated with it. This is a company that just got sold for 2 billion euros, and it sits right next to us. Literally, the plant is 6 kilometers away from our mine. So we are in elephant countries. You have there companies. You have about 20 companies that have been mining there for many, many, many years.
So with that, like even when you mention Mubadala, it's not a household name, neither is Trafigura or whatever. But when you look at Mubadala, they have $234 billion under management. I mean, this is the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. And when you talk about smart money, they didn't just stumble on in here and start taking a stab at mining. I mean, I know individuals from like the Electrum Group in New York that were hired away. These are like the smartest groups with the biggest dough around, right?
Smartest money around. They invested $300 million. In the last 10 years, they made 10 times the money. Plus, they just made about $1 billion in additional profit on top of that. Who is Trafigura? Trafigura is the largest commodity trader in the world, bigger than Glencore, okay, on commodities. So who are the companies that are over there? They're all majors. If you go into our website, every single one of these companies that you see that are producing there are all big producers of minerals worldwide.
Well, that's a good point. And like, that's what I always talk about is, smaller investors, smaller donors for nonprofit stuff, whatever. I tell everybody, and I talk a lot about, and I'd love to talk to you on the side. I do a lot of stuff in Venezuela to get your take on the geo there, what's happening politically, but they think out of their own pocketbook. And when you're thinking out of a pocketbook, like these groups, to make a $2 billion acquisition is not like it's something that they're going to find hard to swallow if it's the right situation. So when you look ahead with what your strategy is with the drilling, what do you think that you will have to do and prove out how much capital to continue to be spent? And then when is somebody around you or elsewhere going to want to take you out? Because that is, to me, a clear path when I've heard this story and looked at it, more closely.
Well, let's start with the first. The company right now is well financed, over $21 million in the U.S. in the bank. Gran Colombia is the largest shareholder. Believe me, if there is anybody before the eyes of somebody else will take us over, I can tell you that Gran Colombia will have second thoughts about, because this is a world-class deposit. What do we see in size? We see us doing between now and January, we're going to do our 21,000 meter confirmation drilling. And by April of next year, we're going to do our first run of what kind of mine we have. I believe that this mine's going to grow in size. It's still open at depth. It's open at strike length. It's not. It's not going to stop of us confirming 21 million tons of material. My feeling, it's going to be much, much, much bigger than what it is. So it's going to be a bigger mine, with a big difference. We're not like our neighbors that they mostly a lot of copper and a lot of zinc. We are nice copper, 1% copper. We're not 2% copper like our neighbors, but we have a great difference with 3.8 grams of gold per ton. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Okay. This is a gold mine with polymetallic. Okay. God gave us in that particular portion of the evolution of the deposit, gave more gold into that area for whatever reason. Okay, like in the Matza mine in the Magdalena, they have pretty much the same kind of thing: 3 to 4 grams, up to 10 grams of gold per ton in these areas. So, what do we see? We see us taking this thing to a point where we're going to be making a decision of do we want to joint venture it with our neighbors, if that would be it. Right now, I believe that we have a possibility of developing a standalone major mine that we can take it into production. Obviously, once we develop this mine, somebody's going to come over and they're going to try to take advantage of those large resources. But keep in mind that Gran Colombia has 26% of this company, and Gran Colombia has desire to grow. And this is a package that could fit very well. I'm not saying that it will, but it could fit very well with what we want. It would have to be, as they say, an offer that we couldn't refuse for our shareholders.
Right. And yeah, so like that's part of the reason why I'm so bullish here as well. When you've got that big of a stake at Gran Colombia and you've got a proven model of where you like projects to be, which this one is very far along, and then taking a first look at purchasing it. Now, what stage are you when you say take a run at first run at the size of the mine and what you've got into April? Where is this PFS, PEA? Like,
let's put it. I would say PSF, right? Where are we right now? There is no doubt, because of 3 different groups that studied the deposit, they drilled the deposit. There is 21 million tons in resources in this thing. Now, what do we have to do? As a responsible company, I have to come in, and instead of being an historical resource, I have to make it my resource. It's got 4 million tons in measure and indicated, and the rest is in the resource category, simply because they are at 75 meter spacing, and I'm going to bring it at 35 meter spacing on the second stage. So where are we? We have 18 months to take this thing to a pre-feasibility study. Okay. And we are going to do it. We got the cash to do it. We're already contracting metallurgical studies, which we have already passed metallurgical study, but because of new technologies and new technique in the recovery of gold and recovery of other materials, we are going to be renewing it and making it better to see what kind of better recovery we can have on these materials. In the next 18 months, we're going to be drilling not only the 20,000 meters, we're going to be drilling 60,000 additional meters, which are going to go deeper so that we can hit the basement of this deposit and say, this is where it goes. And then go open up a strike length to where it's got to go to the limit of the 800 hectare concession that we have. And then with better spacing so that we can take the resources into the measure and indicated and reserve category, and then make a decision. Are we going to build a facility that's going to be processing 1,200,000 tons a year if the only thing that we have is 22 million tons? Imagine the size of this thing. As we are, without looking to grow the resources. We have 1,200,000 tons a year that I can mine out of that area underground, okay, with sub-level stoping, very easy mining that our neighbors are doing on a daily basis, and produce for the next 20 years, mine 7,000 tons a day of this material and process it, okay? With 3 grams of gold, with 4%, over 4% zinc, with 1% copper and 1% lead and 2 ounces of silver. I mean, I don't even have that type of grades and material in Guyana. And let me tell you, Guyana is going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think to that point, you know, I just wanted to bring up that, ironically, because a lot of times we just don't pay attention to this stuff, and it's very important from the standpoint of investor returns. When you look at the, you know, everybody knows the chart, the life cycle of a mine, right? You're going to want to see that discovery period proven up. You get a big part of those investment returns there. Then you move into the development phase, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, and there's a big lull. Things come down in terms of the valuation, and then it hits its big stride after you go into production. But there could be a lot of problems, a lot of challenges along the way with starting a mine. But what I find really interesting with just, you know, how you're outlining what's going on and your plans is that I think people should realize and just, you know, consider that you are still really in the discovery phase. I mean, yes, it's development, but you're in the discovery phase of really confirming this deposit. You're confirming with the spacing tightening and everything else. Not only are you upgrading the categories, which is a big deal, and the stage, but you're still there. You know, you're not developing a mine yet. And I'm a big believer in the Pareto principle. And the Pareto principle is simply that, you know, just like in anything where you've got 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients, 80% of the move in a bull move or bull cycle, this is macro or micro, happens within the last 20% of that time frame. That's where you get the parabolic stuff that goes on. And really, this is a microcosm of that. You're right at, when people pull it up, you know, the life cycle of a mine, you're right there. And that's actually where a big amount of the value creation is. Let me just see, I'm just going to pull up, you know, this thing right here so you can see it. Because, you know, this is important. This is where you essentially want, here we go. You want to be in, this is where you are, you know, you're probably in this area right here. And then sure enough, there's the parabolic-ish move. And that's probably like, you know, here to here is your next 18 months.
But look at, you're absolutely right. Look at this company where we are right now. I mean, I'm a buyer every single day. You can see it because I report my buying in the stock every day. Why? We have a company with 200 million shares outstanding, with a market cap of 100 million Canadian, with $21 million US in the bank, with a resource very well outlined of 22 million tons. I don't need any more than that. We will find more than that, I can guarantee you. But with 22 million tons, I have the potential of a resource that can become a mine, with the grades that can become a mine. And we are in a part of a cycle that we got to take advantage of these markets, and we got to take advantage of the commodities where they are right now. I believe that they will be there for the next at least 10 years. You're going to see this cycle being lasting in commodities, especially with copper and zinc and lead. And I believe also gold. Eventually, gold's gonna hit the roof when people wake up and know that everybody's indebted worldwide, and money's worth nothing. But that's another story. But just on the industrial minerals that are going to be needed in this world, this is a world-class deposit, and we are 24 months away in this deposit. And when you compare us to our peers, I don't have the chart, and I apologize, but I think that my people can provide you with our peers that are working in the pyrite belt and see the valuation that they're getting on their deposits that are valuable like ours. Some of them they have maybe larger resources. Some of them have a third of the resource that we have, but they have 3 times, 4 times the market cap. So what do I see an opportunity? I see a stock that is trading at 54 cents. And this is a stock that very easily can go as a double. And I'm not being promotional. I'm just being logical in understanding what's going to happen in the next few months, that we're going to be confirming the drilling that we are doing right now. And it's going to confirm that this thing over here is a deposit that's 6 kilometers away. If I wanted to build a mine with my next door neighbor and process the material through them and just make a concentrate, I have the opportunity of 6 kilometers away of having a mine that needs feed desperately. Okay, so these days you buy this, we're a penny stock, but owned by Gran Colombia, that owns 26% of this company, and one of the largest funds in New York, King Street, that owns almost 20% of this company. And then shareholders that are smart money, and maybe I exclude myself from saying smart money, but a lot of smart money that have bought into these placements and into this company because they believe and have the same vision that we do, that this is a world-class area with world-class deposit potentials.
Yeah, good points. And I'm going to just mention a comment for all of my people that are listening to this, and then I'm going to bring it home. I want to know a little bit more about who King Street is and how you got them, because they don't seem to me like a typical mining fund, but they're big and they're smart. So I think, and we'll wrap it up then after that. But here's the thing. When you're talking about your peers getting us comp charts and stuff like that, my attitude, and I say this because I love my people, they don't deserve it. If you don't buy into this shit right now from what has been laid out and what I've been talking about for, months now, you're too lazy and you don't deserve it. And people don't get it. I mean, our group is the first one up to bat in terms of accumulating a position. It's the only reason I've been honing in on it so much. And, being promotional for a double is more like, I'm going to sleep with a double. And I'm counting them up right now, by the way. So this is why I don't do much in the sector. And I'm not looking for, 100x on Denarius, but I see a low risk and very strong reward scenario. This is not, an early stage deal. It's also not, it's a sweet spot, but I'm at 11 and I'm just counting them up today, and it's going to keep going. Believe it or not, I've taken partial position profits on 11 crypto coins this year, between 50 and 500x my money. Okay. So when you talk about when people should do something, they don't do it. I mean, this is the frustration I have as a letter writer. I'm probably going to have to spin off and just, start my own fund and invite some people, or they're just going to blow themselves up. I see it all the time. Guys, this is when you buy a Denarius. You've got silver down. You've got Fino coming on here and basically laying this out for you. And people look at the volume and they're like, well, what's Eric doing? Is he promoting it or whatever? Listen, I look out for you. That's what I'm trying to do. And that is where you've got all this laid out. If you really want to know the story and see the comps, go look for yourself. Don't be so lazy. Don't listen to just me. Don't listen to just Fino, but also listen to who's in it, who is running it. That's what I wanted to portray today. We're talking about, with Pacific, you built that to an $11 billion peak market cap, $7 billion in EBITDA. Are you kidding me? This is where, things of this stage are like, it's like you going out to pick up your kids from school. I mean, it's not like this huge challenge. And so with King Street, I found it very, very intriguing because these guys out of New York, this fund manager, how did you end up getting them or meeting them and then having them attracted to this? Because it's kind of an anomaly for them, isn't it?
Well, they're very smart money. They're very big money. They manage, I think, $14 billion
Yep.
out of their own money. The gentleman that runs it, Brian, is probably one of the smartest, most serious guys I've ever met in investment. He doesn't do investments just speculation. He does smart investments. He has a young guy that is Spanish, and he started looking at the story originally, and they're seeing the same thing. Everybody's betting for the same thing. They know the metals are going to be the big thing, and either you're going to buy Chinese company that they're going to do business in Africa, or you're going to buy American companies that are going to build mines in the US or in Canada. And you're going to have Europe that it's waking up to and smell the coffee. And they're saying, we got to build mines and we got to start having our own resources. These guys started seeing the metals, the Spanish metals are one of the best opportunity around. And they were the ones that came to us and they said, when we started forming the company, we started raising the money. They saw that Gran Colombia came in with a financing into the company, big financing, because we were really serious about. And by the way, Gran Colombia is ready to write a check anytime, again, to increase its percentage of the company. Right now, we're limited to the 26% because anything else would trigger a takeover of the company. But these guys came in and they saw that it was, we gave them the same speech I'm giving you guys. This is not a green field that they took a couple of chip samples and they found some anomalies of minerals. This has been drilled, 80,000 meters of drilling, drilled at a space of 25 meters to 75 meters spacing. There is no mystery over here. What we got to do is diligently put it together, make it work, and take the rough diamond and make it into a mine. That's it.
Yeah, and last thing, a little point and question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. I hear a kindred likeness and spirit in you in one way. You've had a much more storied and long career than I have, and you've been doing this for a long time, and you're the operator in a lot of cases, and I am not. So you work harder, I'm sure, and you have worked harder, but you're also involved in a lot of these deals, and you nurture them and you stay involved for long periods of time. But the kindredness, and this is I guess, I don't know if it's a compliment. It's definitely not an insult. You know, I see I feel and I hear a deal junkie, and I'm wondering if you've been to a 12-step program or your wife has sent you for that, because I'm asking you why you're still doing this. Why are you still rolling and kind of going at almost full speed ahead with a lot of these deals at this stage? Because you obviously could just go to a beach.
Nah, well, I do go to the beach anyway. So, no, look, I love what I do. We believe in, believe it or not, I invest in a lot of projects, but I'm only involved with 3 companies that I run the day-to-day stuff, which is Gran Colombia, Denarius, and I'm involved in the NG Energy because I still love natural gas and I love the energy sector, and it's very difficult for me to get out of it. I'm 61 years old, and I could be playing golf, but unfortunately I don't play golf. And as far as I love to build companies, and I believe that look, I've been in Gran Colombia since I put it together in 2009 to now. So that's 11 years in the company. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the good again. And when you build a company, some people are lucky and they build a company and they make money right away. We actually like to build companies that last and that my kids in the future can be proud of, that because they'll be around. And that's I'm at the point of my life, like Frank Justra now is at a point of his life that he's giving his money away and he's doing great charity work and things after working his ass off for many, many years. I'm at the point of my life that I want to finish creating the companies that we have taken the challenge to build. and we built many of them that now belong to other companies, and get out in a cycle that is a fantastic cycle that is in with my head up and saying that we did a great job in building companies. That's it.
Yeah, and I projected the deal junkie thing from me onto you. It sounds like, the
No, well,
reality is
don't be-
you
don't-
got a passion for this and you love it just like me, but I had a problem. I'm in recovery.
Don't-
Couldn't say no to anything.
Don't think that we're all deal junkies. We all see the
know.
beauty of things, but our attention deficiency and going from deal to deal because we love deals, that's what makes you what you are, and that's what makes you the money that you do. Like I said before, no rain, no rainbow. You don't take a risk, you don't do anything. I look at a company like what we have in Denarius, 50 cents a share in a company that is sitting with a market cap of 100 million Canadian, and I say, and I find it ridiculous when you have just the assets that you're sitting around in Colombia. I can sell them tomorrow for $25 million, okay, to anybody. So we have great assets. We have a great company, and I look at this thing. Last week, I think I filed my paper. I think I bought 200,000 shares of the company in the market because I started seeing that somebody, right, it's their right to do it, selling the stock and throwing the stock down. I mean, what's the point of selling a stock right now when I'm in the middle of drilling and confirming 22 million tons of material? This is not the time to sell. Unless you
Well, I hope so. Tell them it's time to sell. And why don't you slow down on your buying? Because you're our competition in the market. You've been mine. But listen, Fito, I seriously appreciate this. It actually laid out, it connected some dots for me and gave some color for myself on this story, which I was already really, really bullish on. So everybody, that's your Denarius layout. You're not going to get your hand held every month or every week. I pop up with updates when I pop up with them, and we'll bring Fino back on again. Maybe it'll be
anytime, my friend. And my invitation for you to come to Spain and look at the project. And if not, in January or February, which is the nicest, coldest time of the year, come and visit it because it's going to be amazing what we're going to be coming out in the development of this project. It's going to be great.
Well, I will do that in the summer, but I'm going to encourage you to consider my favorite city in the world for a long weekend is Cartagena. I'll meet you there in January. How about that?
Anytime you want, you can be there.
Sounds good.
Pleasure seeing you, bud. Okay.
You too. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Fito.
Take care, bud. Cheers.